So I think this is the first week in probably a month or two that I haven't been working on level generation. This week I've actually been working on playable characters. So going back to like the very earliest days of Gunmetal Arcadia, I knew that I wanted to have a cast of characters you could choose from. Sort of had that Binding of Isaac thing where each character has some different starting stats and sort of determines the way that the session will play out. And I even had a cast of characters sort of in mind from, probably the first month or two of development. So when I started working on Gunmetal Arcadia 0, I knew that I would have a chance to introduce some of those characters throughout the narrative, in at least some minimal fashion. Narrative doesn't play a huge part in that game, but they are at least there. So I'm finally actually getting around to fulfilling that promise and putting playable characters in the game. So I guess I'll just switch over to my machine and take a look at that here. So this build is available on gunmetalarcadia.com. You can download this and play this today. It's of course a work in progress. But what we'll see here is on this screen where we have the three save files that you can choose from. Now we also have this left and right arrow here, and we can cycle through a cast of characters. And you can see it shows their initial stats at the top of the screen. So all of their loadouts are sort of very much work in progress. But I'll sort of talk through what I'm thinking for each one. Virio is sort of he's the guy you played as in Gunmetal Arcadia 0. He's sort of a generalist. Starts with 3 hearts, some ammo, bombs, 1 key, same short sword that he started with in 0, and so on. Starling is Virio's sister. She's sort of a Gunmetal Vanguard trainee, probably like next in line to be one of the captains of the guard. She starts with a long sword. She has less health, but once I have damage upgrades working, she'll probably do enhanced damage output, so I'm thinking she'll be sort of a glass cannon character type. Grackle is a retired Gunmetal Vanguard weaponsmith. She is sort of an engineer type, so she starts with more ammo, more bombs, and she also starts with the combat bracers that let her do vertical stab attacks, both on the ground and in the air. If you played 0, you probably saw that item in there. And then finally we have Thrush. Thrush was sort of your liaison to the wilds in 0. He's a playable character now. My idea with him is that he's sort of a very mobile, athletic character, so he starts with the ability to jump a little bit higher. Once I have stat upgrades in there, he'll probably walk a little bit faster. And he starts with a weapon that is new to this game, that's somewhere between a dagger and a short sword. So a little bit between those, both in terms of range, speed, and damage output. I've been working on one other thing this week, which is what I'm calling session events. The idea that things you do in one session can affect what happens in the next session. So I'll show an example of here. I'm going to start a new session on file 2, and I'll show what happens after I go through this once. So this is a temporary screen, just copied over from 0 right now. But yeah, so I jump into the game here. I'm playing as Thrush now. I have this new weapon. I can jump higher than other characters can from standstill. I can jump like, I guess, 3 blocks high, as opposed to 2.5 or whatever. But what I'm going to do now is actually I'm just going to let these rock spitter guys kill me, because I want to show what happens when I fail a mission. You'll notice right now I started the game with 4 hearts, and that was from a fresh save file. There was no save data there. So now I get game over, go back here, and that's a bug. It says streak -2. It should be streak -1, obviously, because I've only died once. But what's going to happen now, I'm going to choose, I can choose any character. I'll choose Grackle this time. But I have a placeholder event that I put in there that basically says, okay, you start the game, when you fail the game and jump back in this time, you will start with a higher health cap. So now, even though Grackle begins the game with 3 hearts, you'll see her health cap is now 6 hearts. So if I were to break some of these torches and find hearts inside, I could get my health up above the default value of 3. So that's sort of an example of a sort of placeholder test version of what I could do with these session events. Now that one was just automatically applied as soon as I began the game, but typically those would happen in response to things that you do. So maybe you collect collect enough coins throughout the game or kill enough enemies, and based on those, something happens the next time you play. I talked about that a little bit in a video, I think it was late last year, sort of talking about how some of my ideas there had changed from, sort of controlling like sliders under the hood for like how much each faction likes you and stuff like that, to strictly sort of a action-reaction pair format, and that is the way that I've implemented this now. It doesn't necessarily preclude having sort of tiers of things, so maybe you have one event when you collect 100 coins and another event when you collect 1,000, and those could be sort of different tiers of the same event and of the same effect that follows. But yeah, this is at the moment still very much placeholder, just sort of stubbed out to prove that it can work. I haven't really started designing what those events will be yet, but yeah, it definitely feels like it's sort of coming together and showing that promise. That's exciting. I won't go ahead and finish this because otherwise it's pretty much the same as what I showed last week. But yeah, it's like I said, this build is up. You can play through the game as each of those 4 different characters. The loadouts are sort of tentative right now, but hopefully it's clear that I'm trying to find loadouts that fit the characters' narratives. So, it makes sense that someone who is a retired weaponsmith would sort of be an engineer type and have immediate access to some of these other abilities. It makes sense that someone who lives out in the wilds and might have to, deal with harsh climates would be sort of, athletic and mobile. So, yeah, I'm trying to find loadouts that fit their narratives and that also cover a wide span of gameplay and allow you to play the game in whatever way you would want. So hopefully I can hit that mark. We'll see. Thanks for watching. As always, this series is supported through Patreon. I want to give a shout out to Patreon contributors Jace, Benjamin, and Opine Nana for their contributions. You can find the links to my Patreon campaign below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.